as a concern working in the studio, and.
But tell people what this is, Joe.
Oh, this is the pelvis and the leg bones of iguanodon,
We knew
which
that.
is a fossilized dinosaur. It is actually fossilized, so and I'm not solely responsible for this metalwork. This has been done with engineers in the Natural History Museum, so they had the ultimate responsibility of making sure that the pieces will do the job, because it's part of the refurbishment of the gallery. So at that stage I was actually a contractor, and I was working with Mal on Mal's project, and I was equally working for other people as well. My training as a fabricator goes back before this period of '93 to working in a fabrication setup with about 4 or 5 other people, so that's where I got my basic skills from.
And there's some pictures of Joe's sculpture here as well.
Yeah, these are much more kind of recent, but not necessarily what I'm actually doing at the moment. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm trained as a sculptor, like Mal. I went to art college, and it's just a continuation of that process, really, of drawing in space. But this is a steel piece. I don't know whether you can recognise any depiction, but I sort of keep my ideas along those lines to myself, in a sense, because working with metal itself is so exciting that you try doing one thing and something else happens. I'm sure you can identify with that process in terms of working on a project and then something else happens. And in a way I was quite aware, working with Mal, that I was in an environment, and there was also Rick as well. A little later on he joined in the studio setup, and we were all working in our individual ways and sort of helping each other solve problems or sparking off ideas or whatever in discussion. So these are just pieces that I was working in the studio with Mal, and this is my own work. And this piece ended up in Somerset, in the side of a hill, I think. It's a turn. I mean, when Mal said that the studio setup we were working in had lots of materials to plunder, she was absolutely right. There was always something unusual. There were scaffold poles, there were 3x2s, there was netting, there was old stuff from the First World War that was buried underneath. Remember, Mal? Buried underneath the rubbish at the side of the arch.
That piece turns, doesn't it?
It does, yes. This piece turns, yeah. But it's got elements that I picked up either in the arches or whatever. So going back to the Spriggan, the armature.
Going back to the Spriggan.
Yeah, the armature. Mal asked me would I help in making some sort of support structure for it, basically. You were thinking initially, was it, of working in concrete?
Yes, I was.
Because concrete was, I mean, in terms of the actual brickwork and everything, that kind of material, either bricks or concrete or whatever, would have been feasible on one level, but I think we had to think about the actual anchorage and the weight that was going to be up in the arches. And we could have done it in concrete, but I think fiberglass was a good solution, certainly weatherproof. So it was a matter of making it an internal metal armature, which made my life a lot easier, making it the fiberglass, because the weight was suddenly cut down enormously. And Mal made the life-size piece in the studio. Then took then took a cast of it and then laid up in fiberglass, which is no mean feat really, because we were working in a fairly damp kind of place where fiberglass has to be done really, ideally it has to be done in during dry months. So did you make the fiberglass during the summer? Would it have been in the summer?
It was this time of year.
Yes.
Because it went up in the middle of October.
October, yeah. So even late summer would have been pushing it and doing the fiberglass.
It took about 6 weeks, so it must have been
yeah.
September, beginning of October.
So, I mean, that was the armature bit. We had the armature inside the fiberglass, and it was made to the dimensions of the the actual arch where it's going to go, isn't it?
So then we're still working on a very tight budget, and we've got to get it there and install it. And we managed to borrow a scaffolding tower from Jamie Warren, who I tried to contact, but I couldn't get in touch with him. So there's Joe thinking about putting up the scaffolding.
I haven't seen this photograph.
And obviously the Spriggan's already arrived, because you can see it in an arch on the right there. There's the van, which somebody called Dave, who can't be here today, Dave Bevan, borrowed from Camden Communities Transport, which he was working for as a volunteer at the time. Other people who were involved on the day of the installation were John Cowman, Teresa, who's here, and Billy Nicholas, as well as Joe and I. So, these are pictures of the Spriggan before it went up, just standing in the arch. And just more pictures of it before it went up. There's the scaffolding tower completely up. And as you can see, the climbers are still determinedly climbing. There were some climbers who were a bit annoyed because apparently the Spriggan went into a well-known overhang which climbers like to climb up and out of, and one of the climbers who was annoyed about it was my Aunt Penny's yoga teacher, who was a climber as well, and she came by while we were putting it up and had some sharp words with us about it.
So they'd have helped you put it up.
So this is Dave at the top. He had a winch around a tree at the back there. I mean, you can't actually get to this place now. There's no footpaths. That's, you know, one of the things that's changed about the use of the Parkland Walk, apart from the fact that there's no climbers there now. There's far more people using the walkway because it's part of the Capitol Ring and it's all been resurfaced. But all the little back routes up and down the hills that children used to scamper about in, they're all overgrown now. So, you know, it was really easy to walk up there in those days. There was a really clear footpath to get there, but now you'd have to struggle through undergrowth to get there. So, yes, there was a winch around a tree so that the piece could be winched up. And now the difficult job of trying to get it into the arch has started and continues. And I don't know who the man on the left with grey hair is. Did Billy have grey hair then? I don't know. But this went on for a long time, trying to get it into the right position, and it never did quite get into the right position, but it got that close. So we had to give up when we got it to there, didn't we? We just didn't have the strength between the number of people who could get at the tower to push the head right up to the roof.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a couple of inches short of the roof. And the installation went on over 2 days, the 15th and 16th of October 1993. And Joe, you even had the amount of time we worked each day, didn't it? It was a very long day the first day, and the second day was a sort of normal day.
8 o'clock or so on the Friday.
Yeah.
And then again, 7 or something like that or 6:30 or something like that on the Saturday.
And that's it, finished and up. And there it is again from a distance. And that was just taken a couple of months ago in elderflower time. So, you know, it's much, much more overgrown now. I think it was in 1999, Richard Myers, who was then the warden of the Islington part of the Parkland Walk, raised some money through the Ecology Centre. He thinks it came from Islington Youth and Play, to replace the hand which got knocked off, which is the left hand. And that was another job that Joe and I did. We replaced the hand, and we also replaced the leaves that were coming out of the face because they'd all fallen off, and did some surface repairs to it. But actually it seems to have been fine since then. I mean, partly, as I said, nobody goes up behind it and chucks bricks down anymore, but also the hand isn't protruding as much as it was because we never could get it properly into the arch. And, oh yes, what I wanted to say is it's attached. I think there were 2